All right, last one for chapter 5. Just like you can't have radicals in the denominator, you can't have imaginaries or i's in the denominator. So we're going to have to rationalize those and get those out of there. And the only thing you really need to know to do this is that I times I is I squared, and we know that all the I squareds turn into -1. So if you have an I in the denominator, you need to turn it into I squared. That way it'll turn into a -1 instead of being I. So on number 1, rationalize the denominator. You just multiply by I over I, which understand is just multiplying by 1, so that's legal. So on the top we get 4I, on the bottom we get I squared. Well, that's 4I over -1, which is simply -4I. In number 2, you can't have 5I in the denominator. Now the 5 is not a problem, just the I is. So it's best if you just multiply by the I. Otherwise you're just making more work for yourself and you'll have to divide by the 5 later. On the top you want to distribute. You get 3I plus 2I squared. On the bottom you get 5I squared. Plus 2I squared is really -2, and 5I squared is really -5. So we have 3I minus 2 over -5. And we've talked about it before, and you can't have a negative in the denominator, so they're going to have that be -3I plus 2 all over 5. They won't leave the answer that way either. Remember that imaginary numbers are always written as A plus BI, complex numbers. They like the I part to be at the end, so they're going to write this answer as 2 minus 3I over 5. So you want to rearrange it. So those are going to be the pretty easy ones. Shouldn't have too much trouble with those. Now, just like before, we're going to have to use conjugates. So you notice that the denominator now is a binomial. Well, if you multiply by the conjugate, it'll get rid of the I. So the rule is the same for radicals and complex or imaginary numbers. So on the bottom, we're going to FOIL this, no middle. We get 49 minus 4I squared, which is 49 plus 4. So we know the I squared changes that sign. On the top, you need to distribute. So you get 35 minus 10I all over 53. And our rules are going to stay the same for canceling. You have to be able to cancel in all 3 locations in order to cancel. Otherwise, you just leave it. So we aren't really learning anything new. It's just with an I instead of a radical. Number 4, multiply by 7 plus I. We get 49 minus I squared. That's 49 plus 1 on the bottom. On the top, you want to distribute. So you get 28 plus 4I all over 50. Those are all divisible by 2, so we would reduce that to 14 plus 2I all over 25. And the only way that these get more complicated is to make the top of the fraction more complicated. So instead of distributing on the top, we'll have to use FOIL. So our conjugate is 5 minus 4I. So multiply on the top and on the bottom. I like to do the bottom first. It's easier. 5 times 5 is 25. 4I times 4I is negative 16I squared. So that's 25 plus 16, which is 41. So that's our denominator. On the top, we're going to FOIL. First, 3 times 5 is 15. Outside, 3 times negative 4I, negative 12I. Inside, negative 2I times 5, negative 10I, And last is negative 2i and negative 4i, which is positive 8i squared. Now remember, that's all over our 41. On the top, you need to combine like terms. This has got an I squared, so that means that's negative 8. 15 minus 8 is 7. Negative 12i and negative 10i is negative 22i, all over 41. Nothing in common with the three numbers, so you can't cancel or reduce, so you'd be done. And that's it for rationalizing the denominators, and they really don't get any more difficult than that.